Those years are done. It's fine. Those were all traumatic. I'm trying to work forward. My therapist said I need to.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, it is Thursday, and that means only one thing. Tomorrow is Friday. No, I'm kidding. It is Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On NFL channel. You've got myself, Ross Jackson, at Ross Jackson Nola, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, joining this week, my good friend Julian Council, host of the Locked On Panthers podcast, at Julian Council. Julian, how are you, man?
Ross, I'm doing well here on the East Coast in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, it's kind of stormy outside right now as we're recording this. But either way, doing great, man. Really excited for Sunday's Week 2 matchup, something I've been looking forward to for a while here for the Panthers and Saints.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. These two teams get a Week 2 check-in, and then they don't see each other for like 20 weeks, and then we'll see you at the end of the season. So it's going to be really interesting to sort of see these two check-ins. On today's episode, we're going to go through a couple of different things. We'll talk about the biggest stories. We'll look at the key matchups, and then we'll talk about keys to victory and make our picks and predictions against our betonline.ag odds. So, Julian, let's go ahead and get it started here with the biggest stories for these two teams. Let's start with the Panthers. They're the home team after all. What is the biggest story right now for these Carolina Panthers heading into this week?
It's a good question. Because last week's game against the Jets was all about the Sam Darnold revenge game, if you want to call it that. You could also say Robby Anderson revenge game. And he's the one who showed the most emotion when he did the whole Jets logo kind of being a plane when he scored that touchdown. Sam was pretty ho-hum about it throughout the week. And I actually buy that. He's got the California cool kind of persona where I really don't think it meant all that much to him. Yes, to win was important, but was he looking at it as a revenge game? I guess this week is kind of like proving just how good they are. You won 19-14 against the Jets. It's a good win. You're 1-0. Everyone should be happy about that. But I've really wrestled with this in Sunday, just how happy you really can be when you play one of the worst teams in the league. And for large parts of that game, the offense was pretty ineffective, not only in the red zone, but just in general, where in the second half it was punt, 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 field goal, punt. Then the game was over. So that's kind of the thing. I'm just wondering, it's a prove-it game for the Panthers at home. Just how good is this team heading against a Saints team that shocked the entire league with that 38-3 victory on Sunday in Jacksonville against the Packers?
Yeah, I get the idea there, right? Can you repeat what you showed last week? That's certainly what's on the New Orleans Saints' mind. The big 38-3 victory, 35-point loss for Aaron Rodgers, 35-point W for Jameis Winston to take home and eat. It was an incredible performance there, but how much of that actually bleeds over into this performance? I think the biggest storyline to watch for the New Orleans Saints is going to be availability. That becomes the big thing. Yeah. You saw that injury report, right? That thing looked like a tome.
Well, you have, 10 guys who are on IR right now, including, 3 starters, Lutz, Crowley, and Traquan Smith.
Traquan, yep.
And then you got Michael Thomas on the PUP list. Not going to see him for a while. And then 8 COVID cases as reported by Adam Schefter on Tuesday?
Yeah, absolutely. 6 of those being coaches, one of which a nutritionist, and then the other being Michael Thomas, who's on that physically unable to perform list. So he went from physically unable to perform to reserve COVID, and then he'll go back to physically unable to perform. I guess good timing? I don't know.
That's the best case scenario, honestly. If it's going to be a player, let it be a guy who's not going to play anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But now the Saints have this really interesting situation where you have several players that did not practice on Wednesday's practice. How much of that is precautionary, veteran rest, things like that? Quan Alexander, a big name on there. You also had CJ Gardner-Johnson limited, and then you saw Tano Pasio, who had a strip sack in place of Marcus Davenport after Marcus Davenport had to leave the game. He's out for very likely a couple of weeks. Marshon Lattimore, Eric McCoy, all these guys. Plus, you have a running backs coach, a tight ends coach, a wide receivers coach, and an offensive line coach all out with the C word. So it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And so the Saints are now coming up with all these unique ways to try to combat that in terms of prep and getting ready for this game. Sean Payton is just leading full-on offensive meetings as opposed to the usual positional breakdowns that you would see. Yeah. Availability is going to be huge in this game. How do you even navigate the sidelines without the positional coaches and the little like positional huddles that you would usually see with the tight ends, quarterbacks, and all that? Or is it just going to be Sean Payton running up and down the line of scrimmage saying, good job, good job, good job, good job? I don't know.
And that's what I told my audience on Wednesday. Like, this is obviously week 2, the importance of a division game. But to be able to play the Saints under these circumstances, we already knew that Will Lutz wasn't going to play, and then we knew that Michael Thomas would be out. And Will Lutz, I know he's only a kicker, but as we've seen here in Carolina, where we're already on our 3rd kicker, it's an extremely important position that you want to have settled, particularly going into a big-time game like this on Sunday. But in terms of the guys who are out, the coaches that are out, and how the whole disorganization of the whole week, and that with Hurricane Ida and having to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and all that the Saints have gone through, like, it didn't bother them last week, but this week you add up everything. This has to be the opportunity for Carolina to go out there and beat New Orleans, despite how good they look. Now, I did tell people too, if Sean Payton's healthy and out there, and Dennis Allen is healthy and he's calling the plays defensively, I think the Saints might be able to figure it out, considering they are grown men and have plenty of veterans. I don't really know how much game day preparation, how much game day coaching adjustments really do happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be, you normally see for the Saints, the biggest coaching adjustments in game happen on the defensive side. So thankfully for the Saints, position coaches, assistant coaches, coordinators, all good on the defensive side. Coordinator Pete Carmichael, good on the offensive side. But, it's just those position coaches that have such a huge role and a huge lift. Thankfully, Ronald Curry, who's kind of the rising star, along with Ryan Nielsen over on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, Ronald Curry is kind of the quarterback's coach, and he's kind of the guy that's really the rising star there. He's fine, and he'll be there, and that's great because he was up in Jameis Winston's pocket the entire time on Sunday. Expect to see that again. Speaking of quarterbacks, real quick, before we sort of transition here over to key matchups, how you feeling now with Sam Darnold? I know it's only one game, but you were really reserved about it in the beginning, as have I been. They get away with the win here. Is there more confidence in Sam Darnold now?
I mean, bro, it's been 1 week. Come on.
I'm trying to just get the positive from Sam Darnold if it's there.
There is a lot of positive.
That's good.
I've told everybody after the game, like, I thought that he was terrific, especially in the first half, where he threw for 234 yards, had the 2 touchdowns, especially that long touchdown throw to Robby Anderson, which Christian McCaffrey did a fantastic job stepping up in pass protection after the Panthers right guard Dennis Daly whiffed on his block. But for Sam to maneuver the pocket, move out to his left, and hit Robby on the money. The deep ball is back in Carolina after last year. We didn't see a lot of it. I love what I saw from Sam. But you go to the red zone, he had that fumble where, that's basic stuff for the quarterback. You can't run into your fullback. And he missed Ian Thomas on that seam route that could have been a touchdown on that same drive. He was good. We need to see, what he looks like against teams not named the New York Jets that have one of the worst secondaries in the league. A lot of positives say from week 1. But as I've been saying, it's not a 1-game referendum. Let's wait until at least the second half of the season before we make any really grand statements on Sam Darnold, unless he's just awesome the first 8 weeks. And it's very obvious that the change of scenery is all he really needed to be a successful quarterback in the NFL.
Absolutely. Deep ball is back in Carolina. Deep ball is back in New Orleans. Sure to have some fireworks in this game. We'll talk about the key matchups that lead to that as we continue on with our Locked On Panthers, Locked On Saints Thursday crossover episode here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But real quick, want to tell you about our good friends over at rockauto.com, talking a bunch about the New Orleans Saints not having all of the parts. You ain't got to worry about that when it comes to your vehicle, thanks to rockauto.com, because they have all the parts, pieces, and accessories that you need, regardless of whatever type of make, model, or year your vehicle might be. And the best part about it is that you have all of these parts that you get to look at, make a choice from, and they're all coming in at cheaper prices than what you're getting over at those chain stores where you got to wait for 20 minutes for somebody to tell you that they don't have the part and you got to wait for 2 weeks for it to show up anyway. So don't worry about all that. Stay at home in the comfort of your own home. I searched Rock Auto the other day in my pajamas and I've never been happier. It was a fantastic experience. And now I have a brand new headlight on the way because my headlight went out, Julian. My headlight went out. I'm not trying to get in trouble with that. So it's on the way over here. I know it's the worst. It's the worst, but it's already on its way. And I got it at a cheaper price. Same part that you would get from the chain stores, but at a cheaper price. So go ahead and check them out, rockauto.com. Show them some love and show us some love while you're there. But right in Locked On in the How'd You Hear About Us section. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Julian, as we continue on with our crossover Thursday, New Orleans Saints traveling to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. Julian Council of Locked On Panthers, myself, Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints. Want to talk about key matchups here for these two teams. Is there a matchup for you that stands out, whether it be position group, or player to player coming into this Sunday's matchup?
Yeah, it's the offensive line of the Panthers versus the defensive line of the Saints. And that might
Interesting.
be, that's probably what I'm going to say literally the next 17 weeks of which position group are you looking at versus which other one. The Panthers O-line versus literally every defensive line in the National Football League. And if we want to break it down to specific positions, well, I'm looking at right tackle Taylor Moton, who just got the bag this offseason, going up against Cam Jordan, who's been a thorn in the Panthers side for a long time. Those two are going to be matched up together for the majority of the snaps there on Sunday. Right. But also, like, the Panthers' interior offensive line has been really bad dating back to even the last preseason game against the Steelers. Pat Elflein, who I tell everybody who I've gotten an opportunity to talk to, is not very good at his job, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And PFF, Pro Football Focus, for those who are not initiated, had him rated as one of the worst offensive linemen over the last 3 years. Him and his buddy at left tackle, Cam Irving. But Irving actually played pretty well on Sunday. Elflein gave up the most pressures, 4 on Sunday, of the 11 pressures the Panthers gave up. Pat also over there, right guard. I don't know if the situation is going to be there, whether it's going to be Dennis Daly, who did kind of struggle a little bit on Sunday, or it's going to be John Miller, who just got activated off the COVID list, but may not play on Sunday. Overall, the Panthers have to do a much better job protecting Sam Darnold if they want to have any sort of success against a very good New Orleans Saints defense on Sunday when they meet up at Bank of America Stadium in Uptown Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think that pass rush is going to be kind of both ways here, because you mentioned the New Orleans Saints defensive line going up against that Carolina offensive line. I'm going to flip the script, and I'm going to talk about the New Orleans Saints offensive line keeping Jameis Winston clean of that Carolina Panthers defensive line that had 6 sacks against the New York Jets. Now, it was, and I know that a pass rush was a welcome sight in Carolina, because it's something that you kind of has been getting better over these last couple of seasons. But, you know, just like the Saints a few years ago, it wasn't there for them all the time. So to see that 6-sack game to open up the season, you get a little worried, especially when you're coming off of a game where Jameis Winston barely had any pressure on him and didn't get sacked at all in that matchup. So can they do that again? Can they keep Jameis Winston clean, despite the fact that center Eric McCoy is going to be out for this game, who has been making all of the keys and all of the protection calls? Is it going to be Cesar Ruiz sliding back over there, who played well? He played good there, but that's not where he spent his entire offseason preparing. He's been preparing to shift over to guard. But Will Clapp, their backup center, who is usually the immediate backup center, wasn't available. And so you had to slide Cesar Ruiz over. You lost one player, and then you had to change up 2 positions. So is that going to be what they do again, and have that undrafted free agent from last year, Calvin Throckmorton, come in at right guard again? Because if so, not a great matchup against a guy like Daquan Jones and these pass rushers that are coming for the interior, who had 4 pressures in last week's game against New York. That's going to be a key thing for me. And of course, they went out and they signed Austin Reiter. I kept calling him Austin Reitler in yesterday's episode. It's the worst. But Austin Reiter coming in. But is he going to be able to jump in and start at center after allowing no sacks since the Super Bowl win for the Kansas City Chiefs 2 Super Bowls ago? But is he going to be really ready to go to make all of those protection calls? It's not as simple to slide in at center anymore without Drew Brees there.
No, but also the fact that I guess Ruiz has had an entire week of preparation. It's going to probably be easier to do it this week opposed to last week, having to step in right away in the middle of a game. So I can understand the hesitancy and the worry there. Like last week, Daquan Jones and Derek Brown were awesome. They're in the middle at defensive tackle, more so run stopping. So I'm very interested to see what that looks like again going up against that Saints offensive line, which is among the best in the NFL. Yeah, the pass rush was awesome last year. They got rid of a bunch of veterans like Bruce Irvin and Gerald McCoy, who unfortunately suffered another season-ending injury. Where in 2019, they were second in the league, only behind the Patriots in sacks. So Carolina traditionally always has those dudes coming off the edge that can get after the passer. And when you add Hassan Reddick to go opposite Brian Burns, who should have had at least 4 sacks on Sunday, that dude leads the NFL in missed sacks, but he's still one of the best pass rushers in the league. And his other draft class buddy, Max Crosby, out there with the Las Vegas Raiders, was all over the field on Monday. That's the only guy in his draft class who has more sacks than Brian Burns over their first 2 seasons of their career. But the Panthers, they can get after the passer once again, like they did on Sunday. Then I want to see if Jameis can actually make the right decisions that he was able to make on Sunday. Like outside of that one time where Zadarius Smith hit him and they called the most egregious roughing the passer call we've seen. That was an interception, but he got bailed out by the ref. So he did have 1 pick. Technically.
Well, I'm just saying it was also defensive pass interference. But, these things aren't reviewable. These things aren't reviewable.
Here we go. Here we go. With the whole You had the ball first in overtime. Okay,
I didn't bring that up. All I'm saying is that it was pass interference on that same pass. I'm talking about this the touchdown or the interception that Jameis Winston threw that I called back. It was either going to be roughing a passer or it was going to be pass interference if it was going to go to review. So,
all I'm saying is we heard all these Saints fans complain about, it should have been a pass interference, which it should have been against the Rams. But either way, you got the ball first in overtime. And
we're not talking about the past, Julian. We're talking about Sunday and this matchup between the Saints and the Panthers. I don't acknowledge those years anymore. Those years are done. It's fine. Those were all traumatic. I'm trying to work forward. My therapist says I need to. Next thing that I want to talk about here as we go through with this defensive line, we both talk about the defensive line and the pass rush, but I'm glad you brought up the run game because the matchup between each of these teams' front sevens and the opposing backfield has to be a key matchup to watch as well. Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, certainly we're going to get some fireworks here.
Yeah, and the thing too, Matt Rule was saying on Wednesday in his press conference that when it comes to the running the pass catching game out of the backfield, the Saints and Panthers, it's the same offense. They're running the same scheme. So I'm curious to see who has more of an impact on Sunday, whether it's Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara. I do think the Panthers will have not much trouble at all running against the Saints on Sunday, but it'll be if the Saints can be able to defend Christian McCaffrey, who had 9 receptions on Sunday. Now, there's been a ton of conversation about him getting 30 touches. I've told people, well, maybe ask the quarterback not to keep targeting him, and then maybe you won't have to worry about Christian McCaffrey touching the ball potentially 10 more times a game in the pass-catching game. But that will be an interesting matchup. I like I said, I think the Panthers won't be able to run the ball effectively. It used to be if the Saints can make some adjustments knowing, and so the Panthers also, defensively, they can make adjustments in trying to defend Alvin Kamara and then vice versa with the Saints trying to defend Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield.
Yeah, they're definitely going to key in on him in the run game. That's always going to be the Saints' MO. They want to limit the run game first, but what does that do with the passing game with a lot of receiving weapons and all of that? We'll actually dig into that and much more as we continue on with today's crossover Thursday, Locked on Panthers, Locked on Saints, as we continue on to take a look at our picks and keys to victory for both of these teams on today's crossover Thursday, part of Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day. Before we get to that, we're going to talk betting lines up next, Julian. Right now, the New Orleans Saints road favorites. I always get a little bit nervous about that. I don't know about you, but when the team is a road favorite, I get a little shaky about it. So you've got the Saints right now favored on the road in Carolina -3. If you want to get in on that line or anything else, you've got over under, you have the money line, and of course you have all the other games going on with a full slate of NFL games this week. The MLB as well, right around the corner. Or the playoffs right around the corner, so everything's heating up there. Best place to get involved with all of it is over at betonline.ag. And if you want to get that 100% welcome bonus on your brand new account while you're there, make sure you use the promo code NFL100. You put $100 down, you get an extra $100 to play with. All of a sudden, you're a rich person with $200 to play with over at betonline.ag. It's a lovely way to go about it. Go ahead and throw them up. Gotta love it over at BetOnline. So go ahead and check them out. That MLB, NBA's right around the corner. You can already get in on some end-of-year MVP odds, all that good stuff, as well as your favorite Vegas casino games that are all over there as well. So go check them out. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. All right, y'all, we are wrapping up today's crossover Thursday. Julian Council, host of Locked on Panthers, myself, Ross Jackson, host of Locked on Saints. Julian, let's start off with the Panthers here in this one again, talking about keys to victory. What's the thing they got to do? What do the Panthers have to do to get this dub against the New Orleans Saints?
They have to get after Jameis Winston, force turnovers like they've done so effectively in every single game that first-team defense has played so far this season, where it's the game 2 against the Ravens and the one possession they played where they got the interception, game 3 against Pittsburgh where they also got an interception, or last week where they had the interception and made Zach Wilson's debut just complete hell. They have to do that again, wreak havoc on Jameis Winston, try and force him in some of the boneheaded mistakes that we saw over 5 seasons in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers. They also need to be able to protect Sam Darnold. That they cannot allow Sam Darnold to see ghosts again like he did in New York. Keep him protected, allow him to hit his playmakers like Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. DJ Moore had a great game. And also Robby Anderson, who he only targeted one time on Sunday afternoon. If we get the ball into those playmakers' hands, I feel really good about the Carolina Panthers. So getting after the passer, protecting their quarterback, those are the 2 keys I see for this game on Sunday if they want to be able to beat the Saints at home.
Yeah, New Orleans Saints very similar, right? Or I guess very similar sets of the game, right? You have to do the opposite, right? You got to keep Jameis Winston clean, allow him to not be in a position to where he feels like he has to be rushed to make decisions. The Saints ended up moving on from Latavius Murray, who was a fantastic pass protector in the backfield, but they keep Tony Jones Jr., elevate him up to that running back 2 responsibility behind Alvin Kamara. That additional pass protection, I think, is going to come in handy here. He's a very good pass protector in the backfield. Adam Troutman is a very, very reliable pass protector, as is Garrett Griffin, guy that is in their tight end room, but they utilize a bit as a fullback, kind of an H-back split end hybrid role. So I like the way that they utilize him, but those extra blockers, those extra protectors are going to be really, really important. So keeping Jameis Winston clean is only the first half of it, though. These receivers have to be able to create separation. Now, don't get me wrong. Jameis Winston only completed 14 passes on Sunday, right? He only attempted 20 of them. The guy threw a touchdown every 3 passes. It was ridiculous. You're not going to get that same level of efficiency in every game. You caught the Packers sleeping. That's great. I'm glad for you. But with the Panthers, a division rival, somebody a little bit more familiar, you're not going to get that same thing. Division games can be wacky, but you're not going to get that same level of efficiency out of your offense. So what do you have to do in order to give Jameis Winston the ability to be able to make those smart decisions? You have to create separation. You only saw 5 catches from wide receivers out of those 14 during that game. And not a ton of targets going that way either. You had 6 out of those 20 targets going to Adam Troutman, 3 of them going to Juwan Johnson, the converted tight end. So nearly half going to those tight ends, not including the running backs out of the backfield. So you have to be able to create separation if you're a wide receiver and create some throwing windows for Jameis Winston. The other part is going to be dictating this game on the ground. The Saints did a great job of that last week. These running backs were also incredibly efficient. 171 rushing yards in that game against Green Bay. That allowed them to have that 9-play drive to open the game and then 2 15-play drives to go after that. I think we got to the 2-minute warning within an hour and 15 minutes of broadcast time in that Green Bay game. It was incredible the way that they were able to sort of dominate the line of scrimmage there and the efficiency of these running backs allowing you to dictate the flow of the game. They'll need that same thing. On the defensive side, if you don't have Marshon Lattimore, you get a little bit concerned. You got the rookie in Paulson Adebo, who did have a very good opening in terms of his action. Bradley Roby coming in. The Saints traded for him before week 1. He's now able to start after being suspended in that first game. So you have viable corners there, but are they going to be able to hang with the speed and the length of these wide receivers in Carolina? DJ Moore, always good for a big explosive play against the New Orleans Saints. Robby Anderson gives CJ Gardner-Johnson fits in the last couple of times they've met coming out of the slot. I expect he'll probably operate out of the slot again. You get these guys that are out there and that can do a lot of different things and that can really stretch the secondary for the New Orleans Saints. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, and also I'll add 2 more things too. When you bring up the wide receiver position for the Saints, like outside of Michael Thomas, y'all have been trying to find that number 2 for the longest time. Marquez Callaway looked really good in that Monday Night Football game, but that was also the preseason. Didn't seem to be anywhere to be found on Sunday in that Packers game. But the Panthers secondary, like on Sunday, J.C. Horn looked very good. He gave that 1 touchdown at the end. It is what it is. Not a big deal, but only gave up 2 receptions. Was a very willing tackler in the run game. Dante Jackson gave it 4 catches, but he actually looked pretty darn good from what we've seen from Dante the last couple of years. I think he can actually break out this season. I will add also one more key for the Panthers, and it's something that bothered them last year, and it's already been an issue throughout the preseason and week 1, the red zone. They were 28th last year in the league in red zone percentage. So far, they're already at the back of the NFL as they're 1 for 4 in red zone percentage in terms of touchdowns. They should have scored at least 2, another one on Sunday, didn't because of Sam Darnold missing that throw to Ian Thomas, and then subsequently fumbling the ball a couple plays later, where Matt Rule said they would have walked into the end zone, and had he not run into the fullback there, handed the ball off to Christian McCaffrey. You can ill afford to get down to the red zone against a team as good as New Orleans and not come up with 7 points. Like, that can't happen. And I say 7, it's not even 7, really 6 points. And then the new kicker, Zane Gonzalez, has to go out there and make kicks. If the Panthers are on a merry-go-round of terrible kickers right now, I understand Joey Slye. We've all been there. Well, really, we haven't really been there here in Carolina with John Case for all those years. And even Graham Gano, as much as fans want to dunk on him, the dude was pretty good for most of his career. He had like 1 bad year, then the whole Butker thing. We're not doing a revisionist history today on this podcast. I'm tired of telling people what actually happened in that situation. Either way, they can ill afford the missed kicks. They can ill afford to get down the red zone and not come up with 7 points in total if they want to beat New Orleans on Sunday. It's a home game against a team that's banged up, going to be missing some coaches. this is the best opportunity they've had in a long time to beat a Saints team that has seemed to be not unbeatable, but for the Panthers, it's been a pretty tall task over the last 3 seasons with Drew Brees there, and now Jameis Winston's there to see what's going to happen on Sunday with the Saints team that's basically owned them over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the Saints 2 red zone takeaways last week, so we'll see if they're able to continue that on the defensive side. That'll be a big piece of that game to watch. What happens in between the 20s for both these teams, offense and defense. All right, Julian, as we mentioned in our Bet Online spiel there, the Saints favored -3 heading to Carolina. What's your prediction for this game?
Yeah, I've been talking about 3-0 would be a heck of a start for this team. The Jets, that was an easy W, even though they tried to make it a little hard there in the second half. Next week, Thursday night against Houston. Yeah, the Texans look good. Urban Meyer, Jack, those guys aren't playing for Urban. That could be a 3-0 start that they can beat New Orleans. Sunday terrified me from what I saw. But given all the losses with COVID, the structure of practice this week being disrupted once again, on top of what they had to do, having to move from New Orleans down to Fort Worth, I'm going to take Carolina in this game. I'm going to take them. I think I'm going to say it's a push. I think they're going to win by 3 at home.
All right. I am actually, because of all the things going wrong for the New Orleans Saints, I'm going to take them to win. I don't usually do this. I usually bet against the Saints all the time early on in the season. 3-5 over the last 4 years when it comes to their opening pair of matchups. They have won the opening matchup over the last 3 seasons, but have gone on to follow that up with a loss. They have not been a very good team early on in the season, usually a slow start. But this just feels like another one of those games that Sean Payton is going to say, oh, okay, all eyes are on me again. Here we go. And he's going to come through with this insane game plan, just like he did last week against an offense or against a team that he knows very well in the Carolina Panthers. And he's going to be able to help out Dennis Allen with his prep for Joe Brady, because Joe Brady's running a similar system to what Sean Payton runs. Obviously, they worked together. So I'm going to take the Saints in this one. I'm not going to take them to cover, though. I think this could be a game that goes down to the wire. So I see this one as being a late game and maybe an Aldrick Rosas, late kick, him coming through for it, even though he missed that extra point. I do think that the field goals are going to be a really interesting piece of this game to watch. So Julian's got the Panthers winning. I've got the Saints winning. Who's shocked about those picks? Nobody is. Julian, absolute pleasure, man. I look forward to this game on Sunday. I'm sure we'll be talking all throughout this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely, Ross. Can't wait to see what happens on Sunday to tweet at you when the Panthers win. So we'll see what happens, though. Big game for Joe Brady, too. I'm glad you brought that up. But big game for Sam Darnold, Joe Brady, and the Panthers, and everyone involved.
Yeah, lots of great stuff on the way here. Lots of great stuff over at the Locked On Panthers podcast. Go do your enemy scouting. If you're a Saints fan, check out Locked On Panthers. If you're a Panthers fan, come and hang out over at Locked On Saints and get the insight that you need before this weekend's game. And don't forget to check out the Locked On Bets podcast as well, because you might as well get yourself some money with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. For Julian Council, I'm Ross Jackson. We'll see you on the other side as we continue on here at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.